This is Midweek Politics with Dave Pakman.
Hey, welcome back to Midweek Politics. I'm David Pakman. Some sad and kind of scary news is that Senator Ted Stevens and a number of other people were killed in a small plane crash in Alaska. And I was watching this when it started. The coverage started. It wasn't totally clear whether Ted Stevens was on the plane or not. Of course, now we know that he was, and he, of course, senator from Alaska for a long time. Not currently, of course. I am kind of scared about this because I'm supposed to take my first small plane ride soon, like a 2-seater. And I don't know. I don't like the sound of this at all. I mean, granted, we are not in Alaska with 40-degree mountain slopes and horrible weather constantly. I guess this is not uncommon in Alaska, but it's making me a little hesitant. I know you've been on one of those tiny planes.
I've flown one.
You flew, right. And, of course, you got sick on the plane, but that's kind of par for the course for you, right?
Right.
I'm hoping that doesn't happen to me, but it's making me hesitate whether I should even I should even do it. This is a plane that it was a DHC-3 Otter, which I guess is a common plane there that they use all the time. It can land in the water. It can also land on hard surfaces. It took, I think, 12 or more hours to get to the victims, and a couple of them were actually, a couple of the passengers were still alive. And it just sounds like a grim situation. I don't know what exactly they were traveling on this plane for. One thing I read said it was some kind of a fishing trip. Do you really need to fly out to an even more remote area than just being in Alaska to go fishing? I don't know. Those are some dangerous areas to fly in.
It seems like you're secluded enough when you're anywhere in Alaska.
That's right. I don't see why you need to get on a plane and go to an even more middle of nowhere place. Speaking of airplanes, by the way, Steven Slater jumped out of a JetBlue plane in the middle of a shift as a flight attendant with a couple of beers. He actually jumped out on that. He slid down the emergency exit inflatable chute. Did you hear about this story?
I did, yes.
It's incredible. He's become almost some kind of hero because he, I don't know, was striking back against rude passengers. But I thought the deal with airlines was that the service on the airline was bad and it was the passengers who had to fight back. I didn't know that it was on the flight attendants to fight back.
I don't know the exact details, but I heard that some passenger was being really rude, and then some passenger hit him
with his bag or something.
With his
like
bag,
that.
like possibly intentionally.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
And then he gets on the loudspeaker, says "F you all," right. Pushes the emergency button to pop the chute, grabs
grabbing a couple
beers and slides down. I mean, this guy's
amazing?
Pretty much my idol. If that's
See,
what
I don't
really
get
happened.
it. I don't get what's so amazing about this guy. Apparently, his pet peeve was CarryOn Luggage. It seems CarryOn Luggage is going to be a common thing on airplanes, is it not?
But that's kind of a pet peeve for me, too, because you're always getting on the plane. You've got these people that have carry-on luggage, supposedly carry-on luggage things that are the same size as them. They're trying to stuff them into the overhead compartments.
Listen,
they can't maneuver them.
Hold on a second.
It's a disaster.
First of all, if you don't like carry-on luggage, when somebody asks you what your pet peeves are, if you list carry-on luggage, maybe flight attendant isn't the right job for you, don't you think?
I'd have to agree.
Not to mention, I always try to carry on my luggage. There's a certain size maximum. They have the little box. If it fits in there, you can bring it on. It's incredibly useful because you don't have to wait for the baggage claim. And even when you get off, if they end up having to check it, like when I flew to Cleveland, it was a small plane. There was no room in the overhead. So they gate check it. You get off the plane in Cleveland. They hand it right up to you in the jetway. It's incredibly convenient. Why would you not carry on your luggage if you can?
Well, it is very convenient, but it can be annoying when people bring their luggage on when it's way too big.
Fine, it can be annoying, but if you are a flight attendant, carry-on luggage should not be a pet peeve of yours. Okay, global warming and the environment. Upset at ideas to cut pollution, Sean Hannity says when asked paper or plastic, he says double plastic. Here's his explanation.
The nanny state, San Francisco, they want to ban plastic bags. You know when they say paper or plastic, I say double plastic just to annoy liberals.
Yeah.
All right?
What's in the air over there? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, and the bottom line is, there's two things. First of all, at what point does the government step back, and realize that it has certain powers and not others? And secondly, plastic bags are typically cheaper. So if these mom and pop shops now have to go and find alternatives to plastic, it's going to up their costs.
Well, let me
what
tell
are
you
their priorities?
Craig, you're
Right. So he's right about one thing. Liberals definitely do get annoyed by nonsense statements from conservatives going out of their way to harm the environment. That I can agree with Sean Hannity on. However, Does the right hate the environment more than it loves free markets? I mean, the other voice is a new Hannity regular. Her name is Jedidiah Bila from the Daily Caller. We know exactly what her role is on the show. I don't even have to mention it. She also makes the economic argument. She says, listen, paper bags will cost the stores more, but won't Hannity taking 2 plastic bags also cost more? She seems to have no problem with that.
Well, good point.
What do you do at the supermarket, Louis?
I take whatever they give me. I don't care.
Whatever
they put it in.
You're taking plastic bags?
Yeah.
I'm always on paper.
I usually shop at a place that only gives paper bags, though.
Right.
So I'll say that.
Okay. Well, Hannity also makes it very clear that he values his politics over everything else, including the welfare of the planet. By the way, interesting story I have about Hannity's kid being bullied in schools. We'll talk about it on the post-game show. Make sure you're getting the members podcast at midweekpolitics.com/membership. Our new poll. Do you believe BP's statement that 75% of the oil and dispersants have been cleaned up? BP is saying 75% has simply been cleaned up. The only thing I'm thinking of is that three-eyed fish from The Simpsons. Go to our website, midweekpolitics.com. You tell us, do you believe that 3/4 of the oil is gone? Last week's poll. Is Glenn Beck's Tides Foundation ranting responsible for the recent shootout in California? 54% say yes. 37% say no. New stations airing Midweek Politics: Fitchburg Access TV in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, as well as Dayton Access Television in Dayton, Ohio, and MVCC in Centerville, Ohio. Glad to have all of them on board. A lot of emails about last week's email with Quran burner, anti-gay, anti-Jew Terry Jones from the Dove World Outreach Center. One email says, "This is why I'm glad I'm an atheist." Another email: "I'm always amazed, Dave. The way you keep your cool while talking to these people is remarkable." Well, thank you, but I just don't see what we would gain if I were to get all agitated. Another email says, "Burning Qurans will not accomplish anything positive. It will almost certainly cause Muslim wingnuts to retaliate. Terry Jones will cause people to be killed. Plus, how does this idiot know what Jesus would think of the Quran?" And yet another email: "An anti-gay preacher. Well, I guess we could conclude that he will turn out to be gay." And lastly, "Next time, please don't call a guy like that a doctor. He has no claim to the title, and it lowers all those who have spent years in higher learning to earn that claim." Lastly, on the Elizabeth Hasselbeck "women become lesbians as they age" theory, one emailer says, "I agree with your comment about Hasselbeck. It's a pity for anyone to be that ignorant. And as far as women from the View are concerned, I'm guessing they've never heard of sexual fluidity or the Kinsey scale before. You know, I think you might be right." And lastly, the racist voicemail left on the NAACP's voicemail line: "I only made it 10 seconds through that phone call. Unfortunate, but all white people are like this to an extent." If that voicemail is for real, and I don't know, or if that email is for real, and I don't know that it is, it seems the emailer is the racist one. Okay, on the bonus show today, we'll talk about the Target legal situation. We had an incident with a lawyer about can we or can we not air our phone calls with Target. We'll talk about those. Also, we will talk about Robert Gibbs, who is now being asked to resign, even by many Democrats. And we will also talk about Elena Kagan's confirmation, and plenty more, including my story about Sean Hannity's kid being bullied in school. It's an interesting story, and I won't go into names, but you'll want to tune into that. midweekpolitics.com/membership. Thanks for listening. radio@midweekpolitics.com is our email, and we'll see you back next week.
You've been listening to Midweek Politics with Dave Pakman.
Midweek Politics is made possible in part by CSR Wire, the corporate social responsibility newswire at csrwire.com, by DIF Design, specializing in custom business websites at difdesign.com. To find out more about underwriting Midweek Politics, visit midweekpolitics.com.